Chapter 1: The Cold Golden Disciple Becomes a Menace. If you ask me, saving the sect was a mistake. A huge mistake. A catastrophic, life-ruining mistake. Because now, I am famous. And worse than that, I am being observed. Constantly, relentlessly, by the number one problem in my life. Zhang Wuchen. I was peacefully lying under a peach tree near the training grounds. Soft grass. Cool breeze. Pink petals falling like some kind of poetic nonsense I absolutely did not appreciate. This was perfect. This was the kind of life I deserved. Do nothing. Achieve nothing. Eventually disappear quietly. A beautiful plan. Then, a shadow covered my face. I didn't open my eyes. I already knew. There is only one person in this sect who stands like a perfectly upright sword stabbed into the earth. Senior Brother Jiang, if you're here to stare again, please stand somewhere else. You're blocking my sunlight, I said lazily, not moving an inch. There was a short pause. Then his calm voice drifted down. You knew it was me. I cracked one eye open. Yes, there he was. Tall, straight, impossibly composed. Looking down at me like I was some kind of interesting phenomenon, which I am not. I am a very normal person trying to fail at life. Zhang Wuchen crouched beside me. Before I could react, he reached out and brushed something from my hair. I immediately sat up. Stop doing that. You had a leaf, he said. I can have leaves. That is true. Then let me have leaves. The disciples training nearby had all slowed down. Some were holding swords mid-air. One guy just straight up forgot he was sparring and got hit in the face. All of them were pretending not to look. All of them were absolutely looking. I rubbed my face. This is what my life has become. Public humiliation. Constant surveillance. Zero peace. And right on cue, a small fluffy head popped out of my sleeve. Host! I flinched. Only I could hear that voice. To everyone else. Yip! The stupid white dumpling puffed out its chest proudly like it was announcing the apocalypse. Mission detected. I immediately shut it down. No. The puppy ignored me. Of course it did. It always does. A glowing panel appeared in front of my eyes. Mission. Allow partner to hold your hand for 5 minutes. Reward. Random cultivation technique. Penalty. Public embarrassment. I stared at it. Then at the puppy. Then back at the panel. You're malfunctioning again. Bark. I am not doing that. Woof. Delete the mission. Host must comply. Host will not comply. From the outside, it probably looked like I was glaring at a small dog for no reason. Which, I was. Zhang Wuchen tilted his head slightly. You're arguing with the wolf pup again. It's not a wolf, it's a stupid dog, I said. The puppy exploded. Wolf. Dog. Wolf. Dumpling. Woof woof woof. Zhang Wuchen watched the entire exchange silently. Then, very calmly, he reached over and took my hand. I froze. My brain disconnected. What are you doing? I asked. His grip was firm, warm, completely unbothered. Like this was the most natural thing in the world. He looked at me, calm, steady, absolutely serious. Can't I hold my lover's hand? My soul left my body. Somewhere in the distance, a sword clattered loudly to the ground. A disciple whispered, "Did he just say lover?" Another one choked. Someone else sat down on the floor like their legs stopped working. I turned stiffly toward Zhang Wuchen. You cannot. I already am. That's not the point. What is the point? The point is you should stop. Why? Because people are watching. They are always watching you, he said. That is also a problem. The puppy was bouncing in circles like it had achieved enlightenment. Host is successful. I am not successful. Relationship progress +10. I will throw you into a river. Host threat detected. Good. Zhang Wuchen tightened his hold slightly when I tried to pull away. 5 minutes, he said. I froze again. He lifted our joined hands slightly. Right in front of my face. Right in front of the entire sect. My brain shut down again. I hate cultivation, I muttered. I know, he replied. The breeze passed through the peach trees again. Petals drifted down. Everything looked calm, peaceful, almost romantic, which is completely wrong. This is not romance. This is harassment, targeted harassment, by the strongest disciple in the sect. And I am trapped, because if I resist too much, the system will reward me. If I comply, he gets worse. The puppy barked proudly. Host has entered new story arc. I stared at the sky. I tried to die in chapter 12. How did I end up here? Still holding hands. With him. In public. Surrounded by witnesses. My life is over. Chapter 2, public affection is illegal. After careful consideration, which means I suffered for an entire night thinking about it, I established a rule. A very important rule. A life-saving rule. A dignity-preserving rule. No touching in public. I said it very clearly, very seriously, directly to Jiang Wuchen's face. We were standing in the courtyard at the time. Morning training. Dozens of disciples around. Witnesses everywhere. Perfect setting to establish boundaries. Jiang Wuchen looked at me, listened, nodded once. Understood. I felt hope. Real, genuine hope. Maybe he could be reasoned with. Maybe this nightmare could end. 5 minutes later, he was walking beside me, holding my hand. Again, I stopped walking. He stopped too, still holding my hand. I turned slowly. Let go. You said no touching. This counts. This is holding. This is worse. It is more efficient. For what? For preventing you from running away. I was not running away. You were walking faster. That is called walking. He looked thoughtful. Your definition is suspicious. My eye twitched. Behind us, the puppy was bouncing like it had discovered enlightenment. Host is successfully advancing relationship. Yip yip. 3 disciples walked directly into a wall. One of them stayed there, like he needed time to process reality. Another whispered, Senior Brother Jiang is smiling? The third just sat down on the ground. I yanked my hand free. Finally, freedom. Temporary, fragile freedom. Stop encouraging him. I hissed at the puppy. The puppy wagged its tail, which is always a bad sign. New mission. I felt dread. Deep, instinctive dread. The kind that comes right before disaster. A glowing panel appeared. Mission. Kiss partner on cheek. Reward. High-grade cultivation method. Penalty. Severe embarrassment. I stared at it. Then at the puppy. Then back at it. No. Immediate rejection. Absolute refusal. I crossed my arms. I refuse. The puppy gasped like I had committed a crime. Host is a coward. I am a survivor. Host lacks courage. I have too much self-respect. The puppy began howling dramatically. Loud. Emotional. Completely unnecessary. A nearby disciple dropped his sword again. Another one whispered, That spirit beast is very passionate. Passionate you're... I stopped myself. Jiang Wuchen leaned down slightly. Close. Too close. What did the wolf say? Nothing. It sounds upset. It is always upset. Why? Because it exists. He studied me for a moment. Calm. Focused. Unblinking. Like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. I didn't like that look. That was the look he used right before doing something unreasonable. I took one step back. Then another. Strategic retreat. Anyway, I said quickly, I have important things to not do, so He moved. Fast. Not aggressively. Just decisively. One hand lightly caught my wrist. The other tilted my chin up. My brain stopped. Wait. Too late. He leaned down and kissed my cheek. Soft. Quick. Precise. Like he had already calculated the exact angle and timing. Then he stepped back. As if nothing happened. As if this was normal. As if my entire existence had not just been compromised. My brain completely shut down. Silence. Then, the courtyard exploded. Did you see that? He kissed him. In public. Is this allowed? One disciple looked like he was about to ascend from shock alone. Another one grabbed his friend. Am I hallucinating? Yes. Why are you so calm about it? Because if I panic, I will die. Meanwhile, the puppy was screaming in my ear. Mission complete. Reward distributed. Relationship level increased. I slowly lifted a hand and covered my face. I'm going to die. No, Zhang Wuchen said calmly. I looked at him. He looked completely composed. Of course he did. Your heartbeat is fast, he added. That is because I am experiencing a crisis. It will pass. This is not something that passes. It already did. He was right. That made it worse. I turned away, took a deep breath. Then another. Calm down. Stay calm. Ignore everything. Pretend nothing happened. Continue failing at life. Simple. Easy. Achievable. Behind me. Host should continue. No. Second kiss. I will throw you. Host is threatening system again. I mean it. Bark. I started walking. Fast. Very fast. Escape. Immediate escape. Before anything else happened. Before he did anything else. Before the system created another disaster. Footsteps followed behind me. Of course they did. I didn't turn around. I have things to do, I said quickly. You said you have nothing to do. I have new things. Such as leaving. He caught up easily. Walked beside me, matching my pace exactly. You are walking faster again, he observed. I am escaping. From what? I stopped, turned, looked at him, directly. From you. A pause. Then, very faintly, Zhang Wuchen smiled. Not obvious. Not wide. Just a slight curve. Barely there. Which was somehow more dangerous than anything else. Unsuccessful, he said calmly. I stared at him. Then at the sky. Then at the puppy. The puppy wagged its tail. Host is making great progress. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and came to a painful realization. I am not escaping this. Chapter 3, The Hug That Broke the Sect. A demon attack happened that afternoon. Naturally. At this point, I no longer question why disasters keep happening around me. I simply accept that the heavens hate me personally. The outer sect alarm bell rang. Loud, urgent, dramatic. Disciples rushed everywhere. Swords drawn. Formations forming. Elders shouting instructions like this was some kind of heroic moment. I, on the other hand, had a much more reasonable plan. I found a rock. A very good rock. Tall enough to hide behind. Wide enough to block line of sight. Spiritually unremarkable. Perfect. I crouched behind it. This is ideal, I muttered. The puppy popped out of my sleeve immediately. Host. Enemy detected. I am aware. Host must fight. I must not. Glory awaits. Death also awaits. The puppy looked offended. Host lacks ambition. I lack interest in dying. Outside my rock sanctuary, chaos continued. Demonic energy surged. A large demon beast smashed through the outer barrier. Disciples shouted. Someone screamed. Very loud. Very far away. Which is exactly how I like my danger. Far away. I peeked slightly. Just a quick look. The demon leader stood in the middle of the courtyard. Huge. Ugly. Very committed to violence. Perfect target for literally anyone else. See? There are many capable people. I am unnecessary. I whispered to the puppy. The puppy puffed up. Mission. No. Too late. Mission. Defeat demon leader. Reward high-tier cultivation technique. Penalty. Severe consequence. I stared at it. Then at the puppy. No. Host must. I absolutely will not. I leaned back against the rock. Safe. Hidden. Peaceful. This was working. This was... My foot slipped. Time slowed. I tripped over the rock. The same rock. My perfect rock. My trusted rock. Betrayed me. I stumbled forward. Flailing. Dignity gone. Balance gone. Life choices questionable. And then, something activated. 3 different techniques. At the same time, I didn't activate them. I want to make that very clear. I did not do anything. My body just decided. A strange dark movement flickered under my feet. Spiritual pressure surged. Something ancient and very illegal pulsed through my meridians. I waved my hand. Not even intentionally. More like panic flailing. The demon leader exploded. Silence. Complete silence. The kind of silence where even the wind stops to watch. I stood there, hands still raised, brain completely empty. Then slowly, very slowly, I lowered my hand. That wasn't intentional. No one responded, because no one believed me. Across the courtyard, disciples stared like they had just witnessed divine judgment. One of them whispered, He killed it in one move. Another said, that was a forbidden technique. A third, that was 3 forbidden techniques. I looked at the sky. I hate everything. Footsteps approached. Calm, measured, unhurried. Of course, I didn't even need to turn. Junior brother, Jiang Wuchen said. I closed my eyes briefly. Senior brother. He stopped in front of me. I could feel it. That stare again. That analyzing, suspicious, far too focused stare. I did not mean to do that, I said quickly. I know, he replied. I opened my eyes. You do. You always look like that before something impossible happens. That is extremely unfair. Before I could argue, he moved. Suddenly. Close. Too close. His hand caught my wrist, pulled me forward slightly, and then, he kissed me. Not on the cheek this time. Not quick. Not accidental. A real kiss. Right there. In the middle of the battlefield. In front of the entire sect. My brain died. For ownership claim, he said calmly when he pulled back. Ownership. Claim. I stared at him. What ownership? I'm not your pet. You are better than a pet. That is not better. That is worse. Far worse. Behind us, something shattered. Possibly someone's worldview. Possibly the sect's dignity. A disciple dropped his sword. Another one sat down. One of the elders looked like he was reconsidering all his life decisions. The entire courtyard had stopped functioning. Meanwhile, the puppy was losing its mind. Host has achieved intimacy level 2. Shut up. Relationship progress significant. I will delete you. Host cannot delete system. Watch me try. Bark, bark. To everyone else, it just sounded like an excited puppy, which somehow made this worse. Jiang Wuchen was still holding my wrist, still standing too close, still completely calm. You are blushing, he said. I am experiencing a crisis. You always say that. Because it keeps happening. He tilted his head slightly. Then you should adapt. I refuse to adapt to this. This is already happening. I stared at him, then at the disciples, then at the puppy, then at the sky. There is no escape. There is no logic. There is no peace. There is only chaos. And somehow, I am the center of it. The puppy barked proudly. Host excels at failure. Covered my face. This is my life now. Public disasters. Accidental victories. Unwanted affection. And a system that rewards me for doing everything wrong. I hate cultivation, I said quietly. I know. Jiang Wuchen replied. And somehow, he looked pleased about it, which is deeply concerning. Chapter 4, The Library Incident. After careful analysis, and by analysis I mean repeated emotional damage, I reached a conclusion. There is only one place in this entire sect where I might survive. The library. Think about it. No fighting. No missions. No disciples trying to challenge me. No random demon attacks. And most importantly, no Jiang Wuchen, because people like him don't read. They cultivate. They meditate. They stand dramatically on mountains and stare into the distance. They do not sit in quiet corners reading cookbooks. So I went to the library. I walked in with confidence. Sat down in the deepest, most remote corner. Pulled out a book. Exhaled slowly. Peace. Finally, I flipped open the book. Looked at the page. Read the title. Steamed spirit beast dumplings. Perfect. Time passed. 10 minutes. Maybe 15. No interruptions. No disasters. No suspicious presence. I was beginning to believe, maybe, just maybe, I had outsmarted fate. Then a shadow fell over the page. I froze. Slowly. Very slowly. I looked up. Jiang Wuchen. Of course. Of course it's him. Of course he found me. Why wouldn't he? Peace is illegal. He leaned slightly over my shoulder. Close. Too close. Junior brother is studying? I closed the book. This is a cookbook. Good, he said calmly. I'm hungry. I stared at him. That is not my problem. You are holding food knowledge. I am holding a book. That contains food. This is not how logic works. It is sufficient. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Why are you here? I followed you. Why? You walked away. That is normal. You walked away from me. That is also normal. He looked thoughtful. I disagree. That is deeply concerning. Before I could escape, the puppy appeared. Of course it did. It jumped directly onto the table. Host. Pointed at it. No. Mission. No. Too late. The glowing panel appeared. Mission. Feed partner. Reward. Advanced cultivation method. Penalty. Severe embarrassment. I stared at it. Then at the puppy. You're doing this on purpose. Woof. You're collaborating with him. Woof woof. This is corruption. Host must complete mission. I will not. Host failure will result in. I accept failure. Public humiliation. I am already living that. The puppy paused. That is true. Finally. Some intelligence. Jiang Wuchen watched the entire exchange quietly. Like this was entertaining. Which it is not. This is suffering. Pure suffering. He leaned slightly closer. Close enough that I could feel his breath near my ear. I am hungry, he said calmly. I leaned away immediately. There is a dining hall. I don't want the dining hall. Then starve. I want you. I stopped. Turned. Stared at him. What? He met my gaze. Completely serious. I want what you're holding. I looked down. At the cookbook. Then back at him. You are very good at making things sound wrong. You misunderstand easily. I understand perfectly. Then feed me. I refuse. Why? Because I don't cook. You can learn. I will not. The puppy barked excitedly. Host should cook for partner. I will cook you. Host threat detected. Good. I stood up. Decision made. Retreat. Immediate retreat. I'm leaving. Jiang Wuchen stood up at the same time. Then I will follow. Don't. I will. This is harassment. This is attention. I don't want attention. I know. That does not help. I turned to walk away. Fast. Very fast. Escape route. Exit door. Distance. Achievable. Hope minimal. 2 steps in. My sleeve was caught. I stopped. Looked down. His hand. Of course. Always his hand. Release me. No. Why? You are avoiding the mission. You don't even know the mission. I don't need to. That is extremely unfair. The puppy jumped onto my shoulder. Host is failing task. Good. Negative points accumulating. Excellent. Reward will be granted. Wait. I froze. Jiang Wuchen noticed. You stopped. Nothing. Something changed. Nothing changed. You are thinking. I am always thinking. You are thinking harder. That is insulting. The panel flickered again. Mission failed. Score. -80. Reward. Heavenly taste enhancement technique. I stared at it. What? The puppy puffed up proudly. Host has unlocked cooking-related ability. I did not cook. Failure is success. This system is broken. This system is perfect. Jiang Wuchen was still holding my sleeve. Still watching me. Still far too calm. You look confused, he said. I am always confused. About what? My life. That is reasonable. There was a pause. Quiet moment. Then, he reached out, very casually, and brushed a strand of hair away from my face. Again, I froze. Stop doing that. You had hair in your eyes. I can have hair. That is true. Then let me have it. He didn't reply, just looked at me. That look again. Focused, interested, dangerous. Then he leaned closer. Too close. Definitely too close. I am still hungry, he said softly. I covered my face immediately. I hate this sect. I know. I hate cultivation. I know. I hate you. A pause. Then, untrue, he said calmly. The puppy barked loudly. Host is lying. Shut up. Bark. I stood there, trapped, between a broken system, a shameless cultivator, and my own terrible life decisions. There is no escape, no logic, no peace, only chaos. The puppy wagged its tail proudly. Host is thriving. I stared at the ceiling. No, I am not thriving. I am surviving, barely, and somehow, that's worse. Chapter 5, The Cold Flirt. I used to think surviving a cultivation world meant avoiding danger. I was wrong. The real danger is Jiang Wuchen. Everyone else in the sect still thinks he's an untouchable, cold, righteous sword cultivator. The kind that stands on mountain peaks, robes fluttering, judging mortals with silent dignity. I know the truth. He's a menace. A calm, elegant, terrifying menace who has decided my personal space is optional. Today's disaster began in a pavilion. I picked the most peaceful one. Open air, light breeze, a stone table, and most importantly, far away from people. I poured myself a cup of tea and leaned back like a man who had absolutely no intention of participating in the plot. Peace. I had just taken my first sip when someone sat down across from me. I didn't even need to look. There are other pavilions, I said. Silence. Then, yes. I opened my eyes. Of course it was him. Jiang Wuchen sat perfectly straight, like he was posing for a portrait no one asked for. His white robes were spotless, his expression calm, his gaze, on me, staring, unblinking. I took another sip of tea. You're staring again. Yes. Why? He didn't answer immediately. He just kept looking at me like I was some rare spiritual artifact that might disappear if he blinked. Then, very calmly, you're beautiful. I choked. Actually choked. Tea went down the wrong way. My throat burned, and I coughed like I was about to ascend on the spot. Cough. What cough? What did you just say? Across from me, Jiang Wuchen looked completely unbothered. I said, you're beautiful. He repeated, slower this time. I pointed at myself. Me? Yes. There are at least 50 better-looking disciples in this sect. I'm not looking at them. That was not reassuring. That was the opposite of reassuring. Before I could respond, something small and fluffy popped out of my sleeve and landed on the table. Host! The tiny white disaster puffed up its chest like it had just descended from the heavens. Emotional spike detected. No, I said immediately. New mission. I said no. Too late. A translucent panel appeared in front of me. Mission. Maintain eye contact with partner for 1 full minute. Reward. Random stat boost. Penalty. Public embarrassment. I stared at the puppy. You are absolutely doing this on purpose now. Bark. Jiang Wuchen tilted his head slightly, watching me argue with empty air. You're talking to the wolf again. It's not a wolf. Bark. It's a loud, delusional dumpling. The puppy gasped. Wolf. I rubbed my temples. Across from me, Jiang Wuchen leaned forward slightly. Look at me. No. You were just. I was looking at the tea. There is nothing in the tea. There could be. There isn't. This is harassment. This is conversation. This is targeted attack. He didn't argue further. He just kept looking. Calm. Steady, patient, like he had all the time in the world, like I was the only thing worth looking at. The puppy bounced in place. Host is losing. I am not competing. Eye contact required. I refuse. The puppy inhaled like it was about to unleash divine judgment. Then it started barking. Loud. Relentless. Yip. 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 To everyone else, it looked like my spirit pet was having a breakdown. To me, it sounded like, coward, coward, coward. 3 disciples passing by turned to look. One of them whispered, Senior Brother Lin is arguing with his spirit beast again. Another nodded solemnly. Truly mysterious behavior covered my face. This is my villain origin story. Look at me, Zhang Wuchen said again. No. Why not? Because you're saying things like that. What things? Dangerous things. Such as, you're beautiful. He paused. Then very seriously, that is dangerous? Yes. Why? Because you shouldn't say that. Why not? Because. I stopped. I didn't actually have an answer. He watched me quietly. Then, softer this time. It's true. My brain shut down. The puppy immediately seized the moment. Host defenses collapsing. I hate you, I whispered. Bark. Across the pavilion, the watching disciples had now fully stopped pretending. One of them whispered, Are they flirting? Another replied, Senior Brother Jiang doesn't flirt. A third one said very firmly, Then what is this? No one had an answer. I stood up abruptly. I'm leaving. Zhang Wuchen stood up too. I'll walk with you. No, you won't. I will. This is not a group activity. It is now. I turned and started walking. He followed. Of course he did. Behind us, the puppy trotted happily, tail wagging like it had just orchestrated a successful war. Relationship progress. Stable. Shut up. As we crossed the courtyard, I could feel every pair of eyes on us. Whispers spread like wildfire. That's him. Senior Brother Lin. The hidden master. Why is Senior Brother Zhang following him? Why are they walking together? Why is the wolf barking? I walked faster. Zhang Wuchen matched my pace effortlessly. Why are you running? I'm not running. You are. I'm walking aggressively. Why? To escape you. Impossible. I stopped, turned, looked at him. Why are you doing this? He met my gaze without hesitation. Doing what? This? Following me. Staring at me. Saying strange things. He thought about it for a moment, then said very simply, I think of you as my lover, so it's normal for me to act like one. Silence. Somewhere in the distance, a disciple dropped their sword. The puppy lost its mind. Critical hit. I stared at him. He stared back. Calm. Certain. Like this was the most normal thing in the world. I slowly looked up at the sky. I knew surviving the plot wouldn't be this easy. The puppy wagged its tail proudly. Host has entered romance arc. I want a refund. No one listened. Of course no one listened. Because apparently in this life, avoiding death was easy. Avoiding Zhang Wuchen? Impossible. Chapter 6, The Accidental Lap Situation. There are many ways a person can lose dignity in life. Falling from a cliff. Losing a duel. Publicly confessing to the wrong person. But in my professional opinion, nothing compares to falling directly into Zhang Wuchen's lap in front of the entire sect. Let me explain how this tragedy occurred. It was a sect meeting, which already means danger. Too many people, too many elders, too many opportunities for something to go horribly, catastrophically wrong. So naturally, I made a plan. A brilliant plan. Leave early. I sat near the back. Quiet. Unnoticed. Perfect. The elders were still arguing about demon incursions, spiritual resource allocation, and something about sect prestige, which I have absolutely no intention of contributing to. I slowly stood up. Carefully. Silently. Step 1, reach the stairs. Step 2, descend. Step 3, disappear from this narrative. Flawless. I made it to the stairs. Victory was within reach. I even allowed myself a small moment of hope. Big mistake. Because the next thing I knew, my foot slipped. There was no warning, no dramatic pause, No chance to recover. Just betrayal. Pure, immediate betrayal. Gravity, as it turns out, is my greatest enemy. I tilted forward, arms flailing, dignity gone, soul leaving body, and then, impact. Soft, warm, alive? I blinked, looked up, saw white robes, then a face. Calm, too calm. Jiang Wuchen. I froze. The world froze. Time itself looked at the situation and decided to stop out of secondhand embarrassment. I was sitting in his lap. Not beside him, not near him, directly, in his lap. Silence filled the hall. Absolute silence. Hundreds of disciples. Several elders. All staring. No one breathed. Somewhere in the distance, someone dropped something. No one picked it up. I didn't move, because if I didn't move, maybe this wasn't real. Maybe I had already died. Maybe this was some kind of afterlife punishment. Jiang Wuchen, however, moved. Very calmly, very naturally. He adjusted my position slightly, like this was normal, like this happened every day, like I was supposed to be there. Comfortable? He asked. I leaned slightly closer, just enough so only he could hear. Kill me. He didn't. Of course he didn't. That would be mercy. This man does not believe in mercy. Behind me, I could feel it, the collective shock of the sect, the spiritual pressure of 100 shattered worldviews. Someone whispered, "Did Senior Brother Lin just?" Another replied, "He fell." A third said very faintly, "He's still there." I closed my eyes. Yes, I am still here, unfortunately. Before I could attempt escape, the worst possible entity appeared. The puppy popped onto the long table in front of us, tail wagging, eyes sparkling, radiating pure chaos. Host! It spun in a circle like it had just witnessed a divine miracle. Mission complete. I snapped my eyes open. What mission? A glowing panel appeared. Of course it did. It always does. At the worst possible moment. Mission complete. Score. -150. Reward, Heavenly Sword Aura. I stared at it. Then at the puppy. Then back at the panel. What? The puppy puffed up proudly. Host successfully initiated intimate contact. I fell. Physical contact achieved. Against my will. Success is success. This system is a pervert. Bark. Jiang Wuchen's hand moved, resting lightly at my waist. Steady. Unmoving. But very much there. I froze again. This is worse. This is significantly worse. A few elders coughed awkwardly. Very awkwardly. One of them said, "Perhaps we should continue the meeting." No one listened, because no one could stop looking at us. I finally gathered the courage, and by courage I mean the last remaining fragments of my dignity, to move. Slowly, carefully, I attempted to stand. I slipped again. Not fully, just enough. Enough to grab onto something. Unfortunately, that something was Jiang Wuchen's robe. There was a pause, a dangerous pause. He looked down, at my hand, gripping his robe, very tightly. I immediately let go. I didn't mean. It's fine. It's not fine. It is. It's really not. He stood up, still holding me, effortlessly, like I weighed nothing, like this was normal. It is not normal. None of this is normal. He set me down beside him, but his hand didn't leave, still resting lightly at my back, like he was making sure I wouldn't fall again. "I can stand," I muttered. "I know." "Then let go." "No." Of course he said no. The puppy was still celebrating, running back and forth across the table. "Host has unlocked new power. I don't want it. Heavenly Sword Aura. I don't need it. Host is stronger. I am more embarrassed. Worth it." I looked at the ceiling. Again, I do this a lot now. It's a coping mechanism. I should have stayed in bed today. Jiang Wuchen glanced at me. You would still fall. That is not comforting. It's accurate. The meeting eventually continued. Somehow, I don't remember anything that was said. Because I was too busy, existing, regretting, reevaluating every life decision that led me here. And beside me, Jiang Wuchen stood calmly, like nothing had happened, like I hadn't just destroyed my reputation in front of the entire sect. After a moment, he leaned slightly closer, just enough for me to hear. You were warm. I stopped breathing. I hate cultivation, I whispered. The puppy barked proudly. Host is thriving. No, I am not. I am suffering. Deeply. Irreversibly. Publicly. And worst of all, this is definitely not the last time something like this will happen. I can feel it. In my bones. In my fate. In this cursed system. I am doomed. Chapter 7: The Jealous Cultivators. There are 3 types of people in a cultivation sect. Hard-working disciples. Geniuses. And me. A victim. Unfortunately, the rest of the sect has collectively decided. I am a genius. This is incorrect. Deeply incorrect. Dangerously incorrect. Which brings us to today's problem. Jealous cultivators. I walked into the training arena with one goal. Pass through. Quietly. Without incident. Without interaction. Without Senior Brother Lin. I stopped. Of course. There are no quiet days. 3 disciples stood in the center of the arena. Determined. Emotional. And most importantly, looking directly at me like I personally ruined their lives. I turned slightly. Looked behind me. Maybe they were calling someone else. There was no one. Of course there was no one. It's always me. Yes, I said cautiously. The tallest one stepped forward. We challenge you. I blinked. No. They froze, clearly not expecting resistance. We what? I decline. You can't decline. I just did. This is a formal challenge. This is a formal refusal. You must accept. I must not. They looked offended, deeply offended, like I had violated some sacred rule of cultivation. You've been monopolizing Senior Brother Zhang's attention, one of them accused. I stared at him. I have been trying to escape him. Lies. Truth. You're hiding your strength. I am hiding myself. That's even worse. I agree. The crowd was gathering now. Of course it was. Disciples whispered, pointed, watched like this was the most exciting thing to happen all week. It probably was. Before I could retreat, a familiar, fluffy disaster popped out. Host. Go away. Battle detected. I refuse. Mission. No. Too late. Mission. Defeat 3 opponents with style. Reward. Combat enhancement. Penalty. Reputation increase. I stared at it. Slowly. Very slowly. Penalty is what? Reputation increase. That is a punishment. Correct. I refuse even harder. The puppy barked. Host cannot escape fate. Watch me. I turned back to the challengers. Raised both hands. I surrender. Silence. The 3 disciples stared at me. The crowd stared at me. Even the wind seemed confused. You what? One of them asked. I surrender. I repeated. I do not wish to fight. This should have ended things. Logically. Reasonably. Peacefully. It did not. They looked even more offended. You're mocking us. I'm protecting myself. You're pretending to be weak. I am weak. Lies. I sighed. Deeply. Tragically. Fine, I said. But I will not fight seriously. Good, one of them said. We don't need you to. That felt insulting, but also accurate. We stepped into position. They drew their weapons. I stood there, unarmed, unmotivated, unwilling. Begin. I did nothing. They rushed forward, fast, coordinated, Impressive. I took one step back to avoid them, and then I tripped. Of course I did. My foot caught on absolutely nothing. Air betrayed me. Ground rejected me. Balance abandoned me. And in that single catastrophic moment, everything went wrong. Spiritual energy surged. Uninvited. Uncontrolled. Something activated. Actually, multiple things. A burst of force exploded outward. Invisible. Violent. Unreasonable. The 3 disciples flew. Not stumbled. Not pushed. Flew. Straight out of the arena. One hit a pillar. One landed in a sand pit. One disappeared entirely from my line of sight. Silence. Then, the crowd screamed. What was that? Did you see? He didn't even move. Hidden master. I knew it. I was still on the ground, blinking, trying to process my own existence. Slowly, very slowly, I lifted my hands, looked at them, turned them over, checked again. I didn't even touch them. No one believed me. Of course no one believed me. Applause started. Actual applause. Why is this happening? I stood up, dust on my robes, dignity gone, soul exhausted. And then, presence approached. I didn't need to turn. I already knew. Jiang Wuchen. He walked into the arena like this was all completely normal. Like disciples didn't just get launched into the horizon. Like I didn't just accidentally commit violence again. He stopped in front of me, looked at my face, then reached out. His fingers brushed my cheek, wiping away dust, gently, carefully, like I was something fragile. You worked hard, he said. I stared at him. I absolutely did not. He didn't argue. He just leaned slightly closer and kissed my temple. My brain shut down. Again. In front of everyone. Again. The arena exploded. He kissed him. Again. In public. What is happening? I stood there, frozen, soul gone, spirit departed. I want to resign from cultivation, I whispered. The puppy appeared midair, spinning, radiating pride. Host is a genius. I am a disaster. Host dominated opponents. I fell. Strategic fall. IT was not strategic. Result is what matters. I looked at the sky, once again, my greatest ally, my only witness. This is my villain origin story. Beside me, Jiang Wuchen's hand rested lightly at my back, steady, present, unavoidable. You're popular, he said. I am suffering. They admire you. They misunderstand me. He looked at me for a moment, then said quietly, I understand you. I turned, slowly. That's worse. The puppy barked happily. Relationship progress. Shut up. Around us, the sect continued to descend into chaos. Rumors, shock, awe, confusion. And in the center of it all, me, a man who tried to surrender, tripped, and somehow defeated 3 people without touching them. I really should have stayed in the library, I muttered. Jiang Wuchen's voice came, calm as ever. I would have found you. I didn't doubt that. That's the problem. There is no escape. From the plot. From the system. From him. I am trapped. And somehow, keeps getting worse. Chapter 8: The Traveling Mission. Traveling missions are a scam. Let me explain. When elders say simple investigation, what they mean is, something is wrong. Something is dangerous. And somehow, it will become my problem. This time, it was a minor demon disturbance near a mountain village. Minor, yes, of course, because nothing involving demons has ever escalated into disaster. Naturally, I tried to avoid it. I am unwell, I told the elder. You look fine. I am unwell spiritually. You defeated a demon general last week. That was an accident. Then accidentally investigate this. And that is how I ended up here, on a traveling mission, with Jiang Wuchen. Of course, always him. The journey itself was uneventful, which made me suspicious, very suspicious. I do not trust uneventful things. They are always preparing something worse. By evening we reached a small inn. Old wooden structure, quiet, suspiciously normal. The innkeeper handed us a key. One room. I paused. One room. Yes. Why? Limited space. Of course. Of course there is limited space. Of course fate hates me. We entered the room. I looked inside, then stopped. 2 beds. 2 beds. I turned slowly, looked at Jiang Wuchen. He looked at the beds, thoughtfully, like this was a profound philosophical question. Then, he walked over, and lay down, on mine. I stared. That is my bed. Yes. There is another bed. Yes. Why are you on this one? He adjusted slightly, closed his eyes, then said calmly, yours is more comfortable. I looked at the beds. They were identical. Exactly identical. Same wood, same mattress, same everything. That is a lie. It feels different. You just got there. I can tell. You cannot tell. I can. This is unreasonable. This is preference. I stood there, processing, regretting, reevaluating my life choices. Move. No. Before I could escalate this into a physical eviction, the fluffy demon appeared. Host. Get out. Mission. I refuse. Too late. Mission. Goodnight kiss. Reward. Spiritual harmony boost. Penalty. Emotional damage. I stared at the panel. Emotional damage. Correct. That is already happening. More damage. I hate you. Bark. I grabbed the nearest object, pillow, and threw it at the puppy. Missed, of course. The pillow hit Jiang Wuchen's face. There was a pause, a very dangerous pause. He opened his eyes, slowly, calmly, caught the pillow, then looked at me. I froze. That was not for you. I know. Give it back. No. He set the pillow aside, then reached out. Before I could react, he pulled me forward. Not roughly, not forcefully, just decisively. I stumbled, lost balance. Again, of course. And then, his hand was at my waist, steady, unavoidable. And then, he kissed me. My brain shut down. Again. It wasn't rushed, not sudden, not like the chaotic disasters before. This one was slow, warm, intentional. Like he had decided, and that was enough. I stopped thinking, completely, entirely, gone. When he pulled back, I was still standing there, frozen. Good night, he said calmly. I blinked, once, twice, still not functioning. He glanced toward my shoulder, where the traitor was sitting. Your wolf cub seems happy to see me kissing you, he added. I turned, slowly. The puppy was vibrating, literally vibrating. Mission complete. Shut up. Host has achieved intimacy milestone. I will end you. Covered my face. I hate traveling. Jiang Wuchen lay back down, on my bed, still. I stood there, for a long time. Then quietly, defeated, I walked to the other bed. This one is actually comfortable, I muttered. From across the room, his voice came, soft, amused. I told you. I did not respond, because I have lost control of my life. Morning came too quickly. We investigated the disturbance. Village outskirts. Dark energy. Suspicious silence. I stood behind Jiang Wuchen, as is tradition. This is clearly dangerous, I said. Yes. We should leave. No. We should definitely leave. No. This is a bad idea. Yes. Then why are we here? To solve it. I disagree. The ground trembled. Of course it did. Demons appeared. Multiple. Aggressive. Unreasonable. I turned, prepared to retreat. Strategically. My foot caught on a rock. Again. I tripped. Again. And then, spiritual energy exploded. Something activated. Something ancient. Something I did not authorize. A shockwave burst outward. The demons vanished. Not defeated. Not injured. Vanished. Silence. I lay on the ground, face down, emotionally exhausted. I did it again, I said into the dirt. Jiang Wuchen walked over, calm as ever. You solved it. I fell. You're effective. I am unlucky. He reached down, pulled me up. Too close. Again. I prefer your method, he said. I stared at him. I do not have a method. The puppy appeared mid-air, spinning, celebrating. Host is unstoppable. I am a victim. Host dominates demons. I tripped. Strategic trip. I looked at the sky, once again. I want to retire. Jiang Wuchen's hand rested lightly at my back. Impossible, he said. I believe him. That's the problem. Because no matter where I go, library, arena, travel mission, there is always disaster, always the system, always him. And somehow, keeps getting worse. I should have stayed home, I muttered. You are home, Jiang Wuchen said. That was not comforting, at all. Chapter 9, The Marriage Rumor. Rumors are a dangerous thing. They start small, harmless, whispers in corners, side glances, muttered conversations that should not concern me. Unfortunately, they always concern me. It started with tea, which in my life is already a bad sign. I was sitting in the courtyard, minding my own business, drinking peacefully, enjoying a rare moment where nothing had exploded. No one had confessed anything, and I had not fallen over. A miracle. Then I heard it. Senior brother Jiang will marry Lin Qingshu. I choked. Violently. Tea went everywhere. My soul tried to leave my body again. That's ridiculous, I said immediately, out loud. Loud enough that several disciples turned to look at me. Too late. He heard. Senior brother Lin. Is it true? It must be true. It is not true, I snapped. I have never agreed to anything. I am not marrying anyone. I refuse. There was a pause. Then, calm voice beside me. Why? I froze. Slowly, very slowly, I turned my head. Jiang Wuchen. Of course he's here. Why wouldn't he be here? He stood beside me like this was a normal conversation. Like the sect wasn't currently planning my wedding without my consent. I stared at him. What do you mean why? He looked at me, calm, unbothered, completely serious. Why is it ridiculous? He asked. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Because you are the main character and I am not supposed to be involved like this. Because it is, I finished weakly. He studied me, carefully, like he was analyzing something. I don't think it is, he said. That is deeply concerning. Before I could respond, the worst creature alive appeared. Host. No. Final relationship arc detected. No. The puppy spun in circles, tail wagging like it had just achieved enlightenment. Congratulations. I reject this. Host is approaching marriage ending. I will run away. Impossible. I will fake my death. Already tried. That's true. I looked at the sky. Again. My only ally. My silent witness. This stupid dog is conspiring against me. Woof. Jiang Wuchen glanced at the puppy, then back at me. You talk to it often. It talks first. What does it say? Things I don't agree with. He seemed to consider that. Then, does it mention marriage? I choked again. No. That was a lie. A very obvious lie. A lie that fooled absolutely no one. He stepped slightly closer. Too close. Always too close. I don't mind, he said calmly. I froze. Mind what? He didn't answer immediately, just looked at me, that same steady gaze, that same impossible calm. Then, marrying you. My brain stopped, completely, irreversibly, gone. Somewhere behind us, a group of disciples collectively lost their will to live. He said it. He actually said it. In public. Covered my face. I am hallucinating. No, Jiang Wuchen said. You're not. That is unfortunate. Before I could process, the ground shook. Of course it did. A distant explosion echoed. Dark energy surged. The sky dimmed slightly. A disciple ran into the courtyard. Demon attack. I looked up, slowly, tired, resigned. Of course. The puppy barked excitedly. Combat event detected. I don't care. Host must participate. I will hide. Host will fail to hide. Watch me. I turned, prepared to retreat, strategically, gracefully. My foot caught on a stone. Again. I tripped. Again. I am beginning to suspect this is a pattern. I fell forward, arms flailing, dignity gone, future uncertain. And then, power. It surged, uninvited, uncontrolled, unreasonable. Something ancient activated, something terrifying, something that should not belong to me. A wave of force exploded outward. The incoming demons, disintegrated. Not fought, not resisted, disintegrated. Silence. The courtyard froze. The disciples stared. The elders stared. Everyone stared. At me. I was still on the ground, face slightly in the dirt, emotionally exhausted. I did not mean to do that, I said quietly. No one believed me. Of course no one believed me. Whispers started immediately. Legendary cultivator. Hidden master. Unfathomable strength. I knew it. I wanted to disappear. Physically. Spiritually. Permanently. Jiang Wuchen walked over. Of course he did. Calm. Unhurried. Like reality still made sense to him. He stopped in front of me. Looked down. Then, reached out. Pulled me up. Too close. Again. You handled it, he said. I fell. You succeeded. I tripped. You defeated them. I did not consent to this. He didn't argue. He never argues. That's worse. The puppy appeared midair, celebrating. Host is unstoppable. I am suffering. Host approaches final arc. I will run away. Impossible. I looked at the sky, once again. I want to resign from existence. Jiang Wuchen's hand rested lightly at my back. Steady. Unavoidable. You can't, he said. I know. That's the problem. Because no matter what I do, refuse, run, trip, fall, it all leads to the same result. Stronger power, more misunderstandings, and now, marriage rumors. I turned my head slightly, looked at him. This is your fault. He considered that, then nodded once. I don't mind. That is not the correct response. The puppy barked happily. Host has no escape. I already knew that. That's why this is terrifying. Because somehow, between the rumors, the disasters, and this completely unreasonable man, my peaceful life is officially over. I should have stayed dead, I muttered. No one disagreed. And that is the worst part. Chapter 10, The Calm Proposal. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize everything has gone terribly, irreversibly wrong. For me, that moment was not when I transmigrated. Not when I gained a broken system. Not even when I accidentally became a legendary hidden master. No, it was when Jiang Wuchen decided to propose. Let me explain. After the last demon disaster, which, for the record, I did not intend to solve, the sect entered a state of celebration. Again, there were lanterns, decorations, spiritual fireworks, people smiling, laughing, living peaceful, normal lives. Disgusting. I tried to leave. Of course I tried to leave. That is my entire strategy in life. But before I could escape, a disciple stopped me. Senior Brother Lin, please come to the main courtyard. No, it's important. No, it involves Senior Brother Jiang. That is exactly why I am saying no. Too late. I was dragged. Against my will. As usual. The courtyard was decorated. Suspiciously decorated. Too decorated. Red lanterns everywhere. Golden ribbons. Spiritual lights floating in the air. And in the center, Jiang Wuchen. Standing there like this was a normal day. Like he had not just turned the entire sect into a wedding venue. I stopped. Turned around. Attempted retreat. Blocked, of course. The puppy popped out, radiating excitement. Host. No. Ultimate event detected. No. Final mission. I refuse. Too late. Mission. Accept proposal. Penalty. Existence continues. I stared at it. That is not a penalty. It is. That's fair. I slowly turned back. Jiang Wuchen looked at me, calm, steady, completely serious. This is bad. This is very bad. He stepped forward. One step, then another. Junior brother, he said. I raised a hand. Don't. He did not stop. Of course he did not stop. What? I said. Then, without hesitation, without warning, without mercy, marry me. Just like that. Silence. Absolute silence. The entire sect froze. Spiritual fireworks paused mid-air. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. I stared at him, then at the sky, which, for some reason, had now exploded into actual fireworks. Why are there fireworks? Who approved this? Then I looked at the puppy. It wagged its tail. Happily, proudly. Like it had orchestrated everything. Ultimate mission complete. This stupid dog is behind this, I whispered. Woof. I looked back at Jiang Wuchen. He was still there, still waiting, still completely certain. You're serious, I said. Yes. That was not a question. It was. That was an order. It wasn't. That felt like an order. You can refuse. I paused. Can I? Yes. That made it worse. Because now, this was real. The crowd was holding its breath, watching, waiting. I looked at him, at his expression, at that calm, steady gaze that never wavered. Then I sighed, deeply, tragically. My life is over, I muttered. The puppy howled. Host has accepted. I did not say yes. Silence is consent. That is not how this works. Jiang Wuchen stepped closer. Too close. Always too close. Then, he kissed me. Slow, warm, certain. Like he already knew. My brain stopped. Again. The fireworks exploded. The crowd lost control. The puppy howled like it had ascended. And just like that, my fate was sealed. The wedding happened immediately. Of course it did. Because why wouldn't it? The sect elders approved it. The disciples celebrated it. The decorations were already there. Suspicious. Very suspicious. I stood at the ceremonial platform, wearing red, against my will. I should run, I whispered. The puppy sat beside me. Impossible. Watch me. Host will trip. That is accurate. Jiang Wuchen stood beside me, calm, elegant, like this was the most natural thing in the world. This is your fault, I told him. Yes. You're admitting it. Yes. That is not helpful. The ceremony began. First bow. I bowed, carefully, very carefully. Second bow. Still fine, still stable, still alive. Final bow. I stepped forward. My foot caught. Of course it did. I tripped. Again. I fell forward and straight into Jiang Wuchen's arms. The entire sect gasped. Silence, then chaos. He fell again. How does he keep doing that? Is this a technique? I buried my face in his robe. Immediately, permanently. I'm not getting up, I muttered. You have to, he said. No. He laughed softly. Actually laughed. That's new. That's dangerous. Then, without warning, he tilted my chin up and kissed me. Hard. Right there, in front of everyone. Again. The sect exploded. Again. He did it again. This is not a normal wedding. Covered my face. Completely. Emotionally destroyed. Spiritually gone. I hate everything, I whispered. The puppy howled. Loud. Proud. Victorious. Host has achieved true success. I have achieved suffering. Jiang Wuchen's arm wrapped around me. Steady. Unavoidable. Permanent. And just like that, my peaceful life was officially, completely over. I really should have stayed dead, I muttered. No one disagreed. Not even me.